Well, hello and welcome. This is India Ideas. I'm Gautam Roy, and today we're talking about the DefTech or defense technology sector in the country, which is being given a major Atmanirbhar Bharat, that is self-reliant India push by the Modi government. It's creating space for startups to come up, foster them, give grants, doing its utmost to ensure that India no longer remains the largest importer of arms in the country, in the world, I beg your pardon, and even export $5 billion worth of arms by 2025. Now, how is that possible? And what can the country's defense startups really do to ensure that we are much better at defending our own country in the coming years? We're here to find that out today. We have with us Dr. R. Shivaraman, Director and CTO, Big Bang Boom Solutions, which is building defense solutions of tomorrow, today. We've got Commodore Sachin Jain, retired Program Director, DIO IDEX, which is Indian government's flagship program for creating corporate VC models for Indian defense needs, which involves identifying emerging technology and connecting innovators to military units as well. It's that intense. And Tushar Chhabra is with us, co-founder and CEO Cron AI, which is developing a disruptive 3D sensor data edge processing platform for next generation applications across mobility, transport infrastructure, smart space, automation, and security, which is where defense comes.
And then adapt or build technologies that is what is called a see-through armor system. This is an upgrade for the armored vehicles of the country, which will allow the commander and the gunner sitting inside the vehicle to get a 360-degree visualization of what's going on around. So this is the challenge that's thrown out by DIO to us. What we do on top of this is we not only build that, but we also try and see if we can integrate artificial intelligence with the same. And instead of the commander just seeing a screen or let's say getting a video feed, we try and see if there is intelligent inputs that can be given to the commander. Like for example, what are the vehicles that are driving towards you? If the vehicle is a tank or an armored vehicle, what are the kind of armaments on it? Okay, how much fuel you have? What are the other friendly or enemy forces that are there in the same battlefield? We try and draw models on what are the strategically defensible positions that are there, and what are the positions that are disadvantageous to the armored core that is there. So these are the kind of things that we do. On the other hand, we also are working with the Air Force on anti-drone defense systems. These are basically fixed site installations which basically prevent drones from getting inside sensitive areas. This could mean air bases, defense military bases, VIP areas, protected monuments, literally anywhere where you don't want an illegal drone, as we call it. Drones that typically are extremely low cost entering these areas. So these are a couple of things that we built. We are also working on a number of other things like exoskeleton, etc., with the infantry department.
Wonderful. Quite a range of products you're working on and building solutions to. And that is through the IDEX process as well, like you yourself mentioned. So that brings up IDEX in itself. And Commodore Jain, if I could ask you, just tell us about IDEX in the first place. It's not that old. It's of very recent vintage, but it's already, I believe, gone a long way in ensuring that we have a good crop of DefTech startups coming up in the country that will take care of a lot of our defense needs in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Gautam. Actually, IDEX the program was launched only in April 2018. That is not very long ago, given the history of the country. And within a very short time, IDEX has made a very big contribution through the startup ecosystem to develop the products. And if you see that we have very long development cycles for the defense products, which generally ranges from 8 years to 12 years. With this ecosystem that we have developed here, we have been able to shorten that timeline quite a lot. You can see the startups, Mr. Shiva, who's here already, they started not very long ago. And within a very short time, they have already developed a product and which is now entering into the trials and testing phase. So that is quite an achievement that this program has been able to impart to the startup community. So I think the program is giving a lot of benefits to the startups. Not only that, we are giving the grant to them, but we are also providing them mentorship through our armed forces, through the industry, and through the leading academic and management institutions like IITs, IIMs. And we are also taking them to the test laboratories in the country, which are there, so which they generally don't get access. They also get the access to the armed forces facilities to test their equipment. And not only that, these startups who are part of the IDEX program, they will be exclusively given limited tendering for procurement by the armed forces. So there are a lot of incentive which is available for them.
Wonderful. I'll ask you more about it, but let me also bring in Tushar. Tushar, just tell us about Cron AI as well, because we have two participants who are associated with this fostering program that the government has. One is a startup that is associated with it, the other is the one running it. But you guys are outside that framework. So just tell us, building for India's defense and other capabilities also, because yours is a multi-application kind of tech. How has that been so far?
Sure. So thank you so much for having us over the show. To start with, at Cron AI, we are helping machines see the world much like humans do. Now, we're so used to seeing the world around us, have this depth perception, know that's a human or an animal, and the self-learning mechanism on the edge. The true artificial and deep learning on the edge is the human mind. But how do machines do it? How does a self-driving car do it? How does an autonomous security system do it? How do we start securing the thousands of kilometers of borders we have without any human intervention? Processes it on the edge. And with our machine learning and AI capabilities, we're able to differentiate, we're able to segment, we're able to forecast, and it can range from objects from humans to animals to people to border security. It could be any kind of detection requirements. We primarily work in applications like self-driving vehicles, which would be critical in border security, especially in some of the complex regions where it gets very difficult to extract people in certain circumstances. Then you have technologies where you require border security. I'm sure people from IDEX are here, so you'd know that mostly dependent on human intervention today.
Yes.
And as time is progressing, forces are spending more and more resources to get advanced technologies in India. In fact, personally, I've spent a lot of time when we were building this technology. We spent about 3 to 4 months, in fact, 6 months for me, on very complex terrains on the Indian borders to understand the problems that the armed forces were facing and how we could solve those.
Great, great. Now, if I could ask you, Shiva, in terms of just being part of IDEX, how has that experience been so far? How has that helped you in terms of taking your tech, the one that you're developing, and products out of it forward?
I think IDEX is a fantastic platform. Like Commodore mentioned earlier, IDEX definitely provides a grant to the startup that is there. They provide mentorship, they provide the necessary handholding. But then the most important engagement that IDEX can provide to a startup is the end user interface that it provides. There are two concepts of this. One, what they come up with is the minute a startup wins a grant or a challenge, as they call it, they provide what is called a specification document, which is, in other terms, it's like a GSQR, a ASQR, or something similar. This basically gives you the laundry list of what is the technology that the armed forces is looking for, what is it that they may want, let's say what is ideally, what are essential things, what are things that are, if you can build it, then it's a fantastic thing to be a part of it. That becomes very, very critical because that is the kind of information that's not readily available in the open market. The second thing that they do is that they provide the nodal officer in each of the end users. Army, Navy, and the Air Force. There is something that's called a nodal officer, nodal office. And the nodal office works directly with the startup at every stage, not only in the final trial stage, but during the development process itself. So if you read the documents of the IDEX, it's built as a co-development initiative. So this is not about startup building a product, but it's about the Indian Army, the Indian government, and the startup together building something that will be utilized. So that, I think, is a fantastic engagement. And that is one of the reasons we've been able to really, with the amount of money that we have raised and the technology that we have, the reason we have been able to accelerate is that interface that's provided by DIU.
Wonderful. And that is something that will be taken forward as well in terms of, if I could ask Commodore Jain, because every startup is all about not just, coming up with the idea or implementing it, but scaling it up and then finding as much market as it can to keep growing organically. And at the same time, if it needs money to bring on board investors as well. So all those dev tech startups that are part of this process of IDEX, they're free to do all that as well?
Absolutely. There is no restriction on the startups that we put them on And in fact, they are the creators of the intellectual property. So they have to have that IP with them. So this is what we believe in. IP is completely with them. They can partner with anyone in the open market, and they can progress as per their requirements. Defense is opening up their doors to them, because if you see, the defense has been a closed environment where the information is not available in open domain. So one of our main effort is to give them access to their required area, so that they understand the harsh realities which these defense equipment will go through once it enters the armed forces. So unless they understand that, they won't be able to build a credible product. And it is a high-tech product which is going to meet the requirements. So we have come up with something called product management approach. And that approach includes all these specifications, which just now Shiva mentioned. So those specifications are given to the startup so that they know pre-hand what they're going to build. Because Army, Navy, and Air Force, they are not going to take any substandard equipment. Because those equipment have to go and fight the war. So that is why the specifications are important. And once the specifications are given to them, they come up with a very, very methodical way of delivering that product, which eventually would meet the requirement of the armed forces. And then armed forces stand a good chance to buy the product. So once that product is bought, then that is the big prize to the startup. Once it is accepted by the armed forces, and once it is proven in the Indian armed forces, then the market is open for them. They can go anywhere and take their product. So this is the objective of the IDEX program.
Well, certainly, if the Indian Army gives its stamp of approval, and the biggest stamp of approval is to give out contracts, then of course the sky is the limit. But again, if I come to you, Tushar, just to find out, because DefTech itself is a fairly esoteric space, there are not too many startups in this particular sector, and the gestation period, if you're putting money into it, is fairly long as well. It takes time to come up with something that is ready for the market, and then to scale it up as well. Do you feel that the ecosystem is providing sufficient support, because the government has opened up defense like anything? So you feel more hopeful in terms of how you can get your business, to go to scale, and then to making a lot of money, profitability, and all that?
So, we initially started off trying to work primarily with the Army and to provide technology, but there's a major problem, right? Like Kumar just said, there's a point in the statement which says, a small point which says there's a high probability that they will buy it. Now, the problem is that the ecosystem might be open, but the fact is not many, but rather there are none of really good VCs which would invest into DEF. Grants are great for prototypes. You have to understand, prototypes, taking it to a trial with the Army is different. If Army, let's say, needs any equipment at the magnitude of 10,000 pieces, how do we take it to production? Taking it to production on its own is a 5 years journey with the kind of mill-grade assurances we need. And after that, going into an open market, as we talk about, by the time the GSQRs are done in India, that technology already exists somewhere else in the world. I feel that the major problem that we are facing today is that we're trying to solve the problems in hand today and not innovating enough for the problems we will have tomorrow. And if we really want to become the heart of the world, and I strongly believe the way the Indian government is supporting, the way the Army is working around it, we will be the center of innovation for defense. But we really, really need to understand that we cannot wait for technologies.
Okay, and what is your take on what what Tushar had to say, Shiva? Because you are in that space yourself, trying to come up with a solution to a problem that you're saying is futuristic, and you're trying to solve it today. So you think, are we as an ecosystem being fast enough, or we might be beaten at what we're doing by others?
So if you ask my personal opinion on it, I think there are two ways to look at this. One is to compare India with what we were, let's say, 10, 15 years back. And we have come ahead leaps and bounds, especially with not only the IDEX program, right? With the Make-II program that is there, the emphasis that's been given on R&D in both by Army Design Bureau and the Navy Design Bureau. There's a lot of initiatives that have come up, including, let's say, for example, the DRDO. Instead of what has become, DRDO used to have a series of labs where they used to build products, and it should be a completely closed environment that works with the Army. DRDO now routinely throws out problem statements to not only the startups, innovators, academicians, under what is called the Technology Development Fund. There, you look at it, you do a prima facie, a proof of concept or a prototype, you show it to them, and you can pick up orders anywhere ranging 5 to 10 crores. And that's a great thing for a startup, right? Your startup that you're talking about, you don't want to pick up the 100 crore order and get, like Tushar was rightly saying, get boggled down with the production hell that is going to be there. The ideal way is to take a few steps forward, achieve something that's sustainable, and then take it forward. In that way, I think the government is doing great. Now, there is always scope for improvement. So as I had told you earlier, when we get a problem statement from the government, what we try and do internally is that while we build the technology to meet the ASQRs or the GSQRs, we also at that time look at what is there available in the market, what will be required by various armed forces for the next 5 to 10 years. And we build that into the design thinking. That is one thing that keeps the product relevant. Like, for example, one of the products that we have developed, the see-through armor, while we are still going through the trials with the Indian Armed Forces here, we have already won a contract with a company that's known as Al Jasur, which is a joint venture between the UAE government and Turkey, who are now picking up the see-through armor system for their installation on their radar systems. And that's the reason why we are able to do this kind of international sales, is because one, we are looking at a product that is contemporary in nature. Two, it's the facilities that provide. So when I go to them, say them, the product is ready, I've already done the work with the Indian government, the conversation becomes a lot easier. So I would say the government is going great. There are still avenues to open up. Like, there are some challenges where, there is a current cap on the amount of grant that is given out. And in some cases, like for example, there was a project that's called an active protection system. The basic cost of building that anywhere in the world is around 25 crores. And with 1 crore or 1.5 crore of a grant, it's very difficult to raise money in the market for covering the rest of the money up. So there are some challenges that are there. So there are flexibilities that need to be built in. But the good part about it is that IDEX routinely asks us for feedback. Every time a new policy document comes out, a new contract comes out, it is sent to all the startups. We are allowed to give our feedback. I won't say every feedback is taken, but at least they are listening to it. And that I think is fantastic.
Okay, some praise coming your way, Commodore Jain, because of the feedback that you're willing to receive. But there is clearly some room to tweak things as well, as far as what IDEX is doing in terms of additional grant requirements, fund requirements, if required. A certain technology is being developed, R&D is being done, more funds might be needed, and then what happens in that case?
As we have already started on a very successful program, which is already, we have 70 startups that have been approved for the grant. This is not a small feat. Almost 1,300 applications that have been received by us for the 29 challenges that have been voted by the armed forces among our DISC 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these are the challenges which are seen by the armed forces, which they anticipate, and then we float them in the open. And then the startups apply for those challenges, and those which are successfully qualified as part of the high power selection committee, they are approved for the funding by us. Now, given that, there are also other options, like open challenges also there we have. We also have IDEX for Fauji program, where a Fauji who's working in the armed forces, who has a bright idea because he's very close to the problem, and even he can come up with a solution which he sees. So, and open challenge is the area where a startup already knows that in the market they can go beyond, something is not available, and they have a specific product which can take our defense forces much beyond where they are today. We have an open challenge for them. Okay. So there are almost 200 applications were received in the very first open challenge, and 9 were even shortlisted in that. So it is the bright minds in the country who have to come forward, who have to think, and we provide them the platform where they can participate. Right. So this is the benefit which is IDEX is giving them, and we are always looking for the feedback. We are improving. It is a self-improving system. It is not a typical government system which is plagued by delays, and we are effectively here to remove that delays here. And great. That is how you see that within 3 years, we have a startup like Shiva is saying that he's reached a stage for test and trials. So it is not a small feat. So given this, when this infrastructure gets in place, going forward, we'll have more startups which will be having better ideas. Maybe they will having, the new disruptive ideas into the defense segment. Even they can come up. But it is not easy as of now because the defense is a closed entity. The users who are going to use them, what conditions they go through is not very much known in the open market. So these are some of the challenges which are there to bring up the new tech, which is going to be the leading tech. So we are already thinking about it, and that's how we opened up for the open challenges, and we came up with the IDEX for 4G program. And going forward, many more programs in the pipeline which will promote this.
Yes, the government is doing a lot really when it comes to giving a thrust to indigenization of defense manufacturing, not just for startups but for MSMEs and other types of industries as well. But when it comes to investors, VCs putting in money into startups, that is a cross sectoral problem in our country, isn't it, Tushar? Where there's a fear that if we don't have private money from within India coming into our startups, we'll down the line become a digital colony because only foreign VCs will come in and put in the money. Do you think that is something that is more acute as far as dev tech sector is concerned?
It is. I mean, if you look at it, VCs are very active in India. In fact, we're just closing around investors from all across the world, ranging from Canada to New Zealand to United States, are investing very heavily in India right now. In fact, post-COVID, the tech industry of India is booming. If you see the numbers, they're astonishing. Whereas the budget in defense tech is not astonishing at all. I think total in defense tech, from private VCs would have raised less than $5 million in the last 2 years. And that also would conclude with IdeaForge.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tushar, on that, but I think your numbers of $5 million are a little on the pessimistic side of things, because just IDEX startups alone, right? Like, for example, Big Bang Boom has raised around $2 million last year through COVID, through a number of investors in India. We've raised it from Mumbai Angels, from the Kamla Pasan Group, etc. And I also know that there's a company called Ajna Lens and Tonbo, both of whom are part of IDEX this thing, who both have raised at least anywhere between $3 to $5 million. So I think the overall defense...
Tonbo is not Indian technology, it's Japanese technology, sir. But yeah, coming back to it, none of the people you mentioned are venture capitalists. A very important thing to understand is that to innovate and to create technology, we need VCs to invest in a sector. Now, what is a VC? A VC is Sequoia, for example. A VC is, for example, a SAF. A VC is, for example, a Kalari Ventures, because these guys have the depth of pockets that the technology we are building requires. I'm sure you would have seen places like the LOC. Now, that team alone would cost you more than $2 million a quarter, leave alone a year. And how do we sustain that growth until unless VCs have an incentive to invest in the sector? And if you look at it, as you rightly said, Tonbo is a beautiful example. Bharat Forge is an example, amazing example. In fact, I keep reading about you guys. You guys are a tremendous example of what can happen in defense tech in India. But the problem is, we will not get that until unless the government starts giving an incentive to these VCs to invest in companies which are dealing with the defense.
I actually completely agree with you, Tushar. In fact, the only point that I was raising is that the $5 million seems a little less. The rest of your points are extremely valid. In fact, at Big Bang Boom, we had a lot of struggle in raising the first round of equity that we did raise around 2 years back. And the only reason we were able to manage it is because we basically created a de-risk model of investment where the investor can come in through a convertible note. And the entire money gets parked with a hedge fund that we created called Whitespace Alpha. And so at no point of time was the investor's money at risk using R&D. So in India, unlike the US or most of the developed nations, the VCs still require some amount of de-risking before they step into the technology space, which is the reason behind why this happens is because of the long procurement cycles, the non-standardization of the procurement contracts that come in. You don't know when the return on investment will be, or if at all there will be a return on investment, right? So those are the areas where if there is policy upgrades, I think it'll be a lot easier for us to raise money, right? I don't have to give an arm and a leg to raise, let's say, $2 or $3 million.
Great. It's great you guys have made my job a little easier by talking amongst yourselves. But let me name Commodore Jain as well. Yeah, Commodore Jain, clearly there is a lot that can still be done in terms of ensuring that our DevTech startups deliver for the country the way we want them to deliver, because there is a expectation that very soon, perhaps through this year itself, this calendar financial year, we should have at least one unicorn from the DevTech sector. When do you think that is going to happen? It hasn't happened so far in India.
very relevant question. If you see that the government is doing a lot in the very last Atmanirbhar Abhiyan, which Raksha Mantri ji himself conducted a webinar on that, and he's recently declared that he's going to procure 1,000 crore worth of good for the armed forces only from high-tech startups. So what more incentive can be there? That is number one. Number two, all the high-tech startups, among them, we have limited tendering. When the armed forces are going to procure, it will be procured only from them.
Okay.
So this is a huge incentive for the investor to come forward and invest in these startups. Now the investor community has to come forward and do their bit. The government has done it, I think. So now with this kind of startups which have done well, within 3 years they have come to a stage for testing and trials. With this kind of infra available, with this kind of incentives available from the government, I think within 2 years you can see a good defense unicorn coming out of IDEX.
Great. That will be great. That will be one development to really look out for. To just tell to the world that look, India's there are defense startups that are also arriving, and we're knocking at the doorstep of every other country that needs to even import arms, because that's one big thing that we're also targeting: $5 billion of defense exports by 2025. Apart from replacing a lot of stuff that we import from other countries, as well from homegrown defense tech companies and defense product companies. Well, we're completely out of time, but great to hear from all of you. We have a vibrant sector that is building up, DefTech sector, and I hope that it does very, very well in the coming couple of years. Thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank you.